Good morning, Eastview. Sarah Thompson again with you on a Wednesday morning. It's good to be with you. And today we are asking the question, where is Jesus in the storm? And maybe we could identify what the storm is for each of us. Probably storms might come in different forms today, metaphorically. But Jesus is in a literal storm in our passage from John 6:16 through 21 today. I want to read that to refresh our memory as to the passage. It says, "That evening, Jesus' disciples went down to the shore to wait for him. But as darkness fell and Jesus still hadn't come back, they got in the boat and headed across to Capernaum. Soon a gale swept down upon them, and the sea grew very rough. They had rowed for 3 or 4 miles when suddenly they saw Jesus walking on the water towards the boat. They were terrified, but he called out to them, Jesus did, 'Don't be afraid, I am here.' Then they were eager to let him in the boat, and immediately they arrived at their destination." So where is Jesus in the storm? Well, in this story, we find that in the storm, he's near, actually. He can see the storm that the disciples are in, and he's nearby. We don't know how far away he is or how long he's been witness to this scene that they've been in. And some of us might say, well, why wasn't he in the boat all along? And you know, at some level, when I think about parents and their children and healthy attachments, parents with healthy attachments to their children aren't constantly with them, because we need to be able to see what life is like without our parents being in our present, and also to know that they're going to come back. And so God does that with us, and I see God in Jesus doing that with his disciples here too, that he's not constantly with them in physical form, but he's near and he sees. And in fact, when he shows up and it says, "Don't be afraid, I am here," we see that this term that says, "I am here," when he says "I am," he actually, the Greek reads more like "I am," referring to what the name that God gives himself in Exodus 3:14. God calls himself "I am," basically "I am existence." And Jesus shows up and he says, "Don't be afraid, I am. I am." Where are you, Jesus? I am existence. But we often just don't see him, partially because of the storms, and because they can be distracting, and they can look so alarming around us that we may not see Jesus right away. And in fact, in our passage here in this translation, it says, "Suddenly they saw him." And so maybe the question is a good one, actually. Where is Jesus in the storm? And maybe that's a good one for us to ask when we find ourselves in a storm, but really not in a sarcastic way, more like a, where is he? Where are you, Jesus? Where you're here, you are existence itself. You are the great I am. So where are you? Help me to see you, your nearness, your involvement, or even what your absence is teaching me in this, if I don't suspect or feel that you are there. Maybe there's something about that absence that can teach me too. So it's a good question. It's a really good question for us to wrestle with when we find ourselves in a storm. So I hope that if your life contains a storm right now, you will look for God and ask him that question. Where are you, Jesus, in this storm? But then be faithful to look for him and try to catch a glimpse of him, because maybe suddenly he will be there. So God bless you in all the things that are hard.